Ms. Naghma Mulla, thank you so much for speaking with the CSR Journal. In the beginning, I'd like to know about who else do you identify as a potential stakeholder besides corporates, NGOs, and individuals and the beneficiaries? Who else do you see as a potential stakeholder?
So in EdelGive, we have three important stakeholders that encourage, that enhance our ecosystem. One is our implementing partners who make sure that great programs are implemented in the field. The other is the corporate donor or the individual donor or anyone from the donor community who would enable it through finances. And the third is individuals and employees of Edelweiss who are really bridging the gap in skills. So they're the skill providers. So these three are our very, very important stakeholders. But as these three come together, the one element that we have to always remember is that everything happens for the beneficiary. So somehow these three stakeholders, when they come together, cannot get lost in conversation. What we do really well is bring it all down to what's in it for the beneficiary. After the value proposition is done and everyone comes together, that's become our strength.
Okay. I would also like to know how things have changed in the CSR ecosystem post the mandate, because there was a certain kind of fund flowing that was happening, but there was an increase in the fund flow post the mandate. So how have things changed in the ecosystem post the mandate?
So there is definitely a lot more money, but what we also see is it's good. A lot of corporates are thinking about what causes to support in and around their geographies. There is more awareness around these issues. 5-6 years back, we weren't speaking about most of the things that are hot topics of conversation now. So one great thing that has happened is it's brought about focus to areas which were being shoved under the carpet. That's a very big plus of having the CSR mandate come. The second is that there is a lot of money, but increasingly what we also saw is that money does go to the more articulate implementing partners. Not necessarily bad, but who loses out is those great NGOs who are working in the grassroots, are doing some phenomenal work, but are unable to access or unable to get into those boardrooms to present their work, or if they even get to the boardrooms, to present their work in a language and a manner that corporates or any kind of donor understands. That has been a little bit of a concern, and that is why EdelGive works on the model that it does.
You've seen all aspects of the workings in CSR. How is it that you think the media can play a crucial role in taking things forward, and of course to see positive development, to showcase positive stories? What is the role you believe the media can play?
I think the media here can play a very, very strong role. Like I said, the more articulate work is getting recognition and is getting the platform of visibility. What the media can really do is bring down stories from the back and beyond. Take us to those areas where we probably will not go visit. Take us to those stories that escape us. Why would in a water crisis we only talk about Latur? Of course, Latur is a huge problem, but then there is so much more. What the media really has to do here is bring that. Yes, it's a very, very responsible thing. Also celebrate the good stories. I think we are not celebrating enough. Like the gentleman in the panel said, we're so busy and we've suddenly grown so serious. Everything is so grim around us. But somewhere we have to start celebrating the good that is happening, and a decent amount of good is happening.
What are the last mile implementation problems that you think, even as a corporate who gives money and the NGOs are still working, what are those that are overlooked, the last mile implementation problems?
Sometimes what we do as corporates or donors and as implementing partners is we ignore the small things that can become bigger problems later. Okay. For instance, we as corporates we would have some very great MIS systems that would ensure monitoring is happening smoothly. We've figured it out, we've given the funding, and then we've given them this great MIS to work on. Okay. But somewhere we've forgotten to ensure their capacity to work on it. Okay. We've also forgotten to ensure that is there another system they're working on, and how compatible is this with that, and how much bandwidth will it take for that NGO to service us? And this is just one example, but there are these small things that we forget. The capability of the NGO to cater to all of our demands. We're so lost in how much is the administrative expenses, to see really what is the content of that administrative expense, and really does it need a top up. So I think we're so streamlined, we're so process oriented that a little bit of fine tuning around the need is something that we miss, I think.
Ma'am, could you tell me very briefly what is CSR to you?
CSR is, to me, an attempt to bring out responsibility in the corporates, not to disburse the amount. I'm very happy with the focus these issues are getting, and CSR to me is if we turn that focus into long-term solutions and not knee-jerk reactions. CSR to me is if when there is a disaster or a crisis in that sense, we do go and pool in money to rescue, but we then invest in rehabilitation and ensuring that it doesn't happen again. So my ideal vision of CSR is we invest in long-term solutions which we corporates are supposed to be really good at, instead of knee-jerk, showcaseable models that may fizzle out in a year or two. So that's what CSR means to me.
My last question to you. Tell me how we can make corporate social responsibility the common man, the citizens' social responsibility, to dumb it down and bring it to all.
A lot of awareness, a lot of conversations. There is trust deficit. Every time an NGO will say CSR, the assumptions that come with saying CSR. Every time every time a corporate donor will say, will look at an NGO, the assumptions that come with. So for us, every segment is loaded with presumptions and assumptions, and we need to look beyond that. We have now worked with each other for over 2 to 3 years. There is a long way to go. There was trust. The trust deficit was fairly high before. Now at least people are getting to know each other. I think in the next 2-3 years we should be fairly familiar with the NGO space and the social development space. My hope is that these conversations become deeper and people really are able to gauge easily what's working and what's not. And somewhere we have to not forget the citizen's voice in all of this, whether it's an urban citizen or a rural citizen. The beneficiary is the core. So how well your programs are drafted and how good they're looking on paper and how great your MIS is looking doesn't make sense if the last mile beneficiary is not getting what he deserves. So that's what I'm looking for.
Ma'am, it's so glad you could share your insights with us. Thank you so much for speaking with the CSR Journal.
Thank you.